up there, my friend? Didn't see you over there in the corner, standing there staring at me. What's up, guys? The beautiful face of Mr. Gallows, of course, back in action again for another vlog. You know, what I wanted to talk about today, guys, was basically the time I saved a life. You know, or at least I think I did. And you'll come to understand that while I explain the story. You know, I was thinking about that today because there was like a story on TV just, you know, about like the Navy or something like that, and they showed a picture of like an aircraft carrier and some planes taking off and stuff. And a lot of you guys out there know, of course, I was in the Navy for 4 years on the USS Ronald Reagan out there in North Island, California. And what it reminded me of was the time that I actually stopped somebody from being sucked into the intake of an F-18 while we were on a flight deck. And basically what happened is there's a bunch of divisions. Like I said, I worked on an aircraft carrier, and there's a bunch of divisions on the aircraft carrier when it comes to the flight department. There's people that work on the flight deck, there's people that work on the landing and the arresting gear, there's people that work in the hangar bay, there's people that work on the fuel, and then there's people that work in the actual control station with the air boss and the mini boss up there, actually like doing air traffic control. Being secretaries and yeomans and stuff like that, and actually being a part of the physical operation of air traffic control. V1, V2, V3, V4, V5, that's how it goes. My division was V1, we were a part of the flight deck, we ran the entire flight deck. V3 was the hangar bay. And they had similar operations going on down there, except that those guys had never been a part of flight ops before. But sometimes they would come up to the flight deck to learn how V1 operated, to learn how operations went on when the planes were actually flying and moving around and landing and taking off, and how to actually be in that environment. Because when you work in the hangar bay, you don't have to experience any of that. You hang out with the aircraft when they're off all day. You don't have to worry about aircraft intakes or exhaust hitting you. And it's dangerous. You know, my first job on the flight deck, I was blue shirt. Funny, I'm wearing a blue shirt today. And blue shirts are responsible for chalking and chaining aircraft, which means that you have to duck and weave behind aircraft intakes and exhausts, and tow bars dropping down, and huge props turning. You know, I mean, I remember standing behind CODs, which were the cargo planes that landed on the aircraft carriers. I remember standing behind the propellers of one of those things, just, you know, spinning, and I mean the sound of those propellers, you know, cutting through the air as you're standing literally right behind them, trying to throw a chalk into the wheel. It's just it's an experience. I mean, you feel it in your chest more than you do in your head, and you know, if your finger touches that, you're pretty much salsa, as they say. So it's a very terrifying experience, right? But the guys from the hangar bay, like, they don't know that experience. They don't get that. They weren't around aircraft taking off and landing all the time, and actually having the aircraft operating, the engines on, you know, and the dangers, all of the dangers that I just talked about surrounding you literally on a second-to-second basis. So what happened one time is that one of these guys from V3 came up to the flight deck, you know, to train, just, you know, to chalk and chain aircraft, like I said, while they were actually in operations, to actually get a feel for flight operations. And I was kind of like looking after this one guy who, you know, I was just kind of like, just basically like supervising him, making sure that he didn't do anything stupid. And good thing that I was there, because he ended up doing something stupid, which was, while the aircraft was idling, of course, it's sucking in air into the intakes. That's how it's warming up the engines. Now, the intakes aren't sucking in at full speed. It's not, you know, green shirts out there who are in charge of the arresting and the landing gear, the guys who actually make sure that the T-bar on the front of the F-18s, you know, whatever aircraft is taking off, is hooked up to the launching gear, right? There's a little T-bar that drops down in front of the front of the landing gear of whatever aircraft is taking off. And green shirts actually have to, they kind of, I guess they almost crawl. They're on their feet. But they like kind of like chicken walk on their feet, just crawl along to make sure that this little T-bar here eventually hooks up with the arresting gear. I'm sorry, not the arresting gear, the launch gear. and that T-bar hooks into the launch gear, and once that happens, right, they have to stay there while the aircraft goes to full power. Right, the intake is literally about 3 feet behind them, and they have to wait there until the aircraft goes to full power, and until the safety officers give them the thumbs up, and then they run around. They make sure that they run in a semicircle so that they don't get sucked into the aircraft intake, and then they run off, and then the aircraft is prepared for launch. Well, what happened now? When an aircraft is idling, right, the intakes aren't at full power. They aren't sucking in at full power, right? But the engines are still warming up. They're still sucking air in. And you still can get, I mean, gravely, gravely injured if you get sucked into an intake even when it's idling, because it's still probably going to suck you in, and you're still going to hit that, you're not going to hit the fan. They actually have protection. They have guards now. But if your body hits that fan protection, it's going to break every bone in your body. Definitely. Even when it's idling, it could break an arm. It could severely damage your rib cage, or your skull, or your neck, or your back, or something like that. So that's why I say I'm not sure if I saved a life. But what happened is the guy went to go chalk an idling F-18, and he ended up walking directly into an intake. Now, every blue shirt on the flight deck knows that when you chalk and chain an idling aircraft, you have to go around. There's a fuel tank that's hanging down on each wing, and you have to go around the fuel tank and all the way around the back, and then come through the back side, right around the back side of the intake, so you can make sure that you can throw the chalk in the tire, and the intake's way ahead of you. You don't have to worry about that. You come around back, right? Well, what this guy did, because he's used to being in the hangar bay and not having to worry about intakes, is he just walked straight to the side of the aircraft and right towards the intake. And I saw him going towards the intake, and I just lunged forward real quick, and I grabbed the back of his vest, and I pulled him back like that, and I said, I just shook my finger, because, you can't hear, the aircraft is idling and everything like that, so it's really loud. And I just kind of shook my finger. I said, no. I said, go around back, around the fuel tank. And, I always think about that, because, like I said, I'm not sure that he would have died. I'm not sure that he would have died, but you never know. Because like I said, even when it's idling, you still have that danger of being sucked in. You're still gonna slam the fan protection, the gate on the fan protection. It's still gonna break some bones. It might have broken his neck, his skull, or something, like that. So I always think about that one time. And there was actually a flight deck officer beside me who actually saw me do that. And as soon as I pulled him back and told him to, go around side, the officer kind of tapped me on the shoulder, and he was like, he just gave me the thumbs up like that. And so I knew that I did something right. It's I don't know if I saved his life. I may have. I saved him from gravely being injured. I know that. And the reason that I wanted to talk to you guys about this today is because, you have a chance to be a hero all the time. It's just that you guys got to pay attention to stuff. Take your head out of your phone for once and actually pay attention to the world going on around you, because you just might save a life. I mean, can you imagine if I hadn't been paying attention that moment? I had been looking another way, or chit-chatting with somebody else, or not supervising him, and he ended up getting sucked into that intake and getting gravely injured. But no, I was aware, I was paying attention, and I did pull him back from being sucked into that intake. And it just goes to show you guys, like I said, just pay attention. Be aware of your surroundings, because you can be a hero anytime. Anybody on the street anywhere can be in some kind of danger through something, somewhere, right? And you may be able to make a difference doing something, just doing a simple act of tapping somebody on the shoulder, or pulling them back, or making them aware of something that they weren't aware of before. Maybe you can save a life too. And take pride in yourself for doing that, because I certainly do. It's one moment in my life that I always from time to time look back on and say, at least I did that, so I did some good for that guy, and hopefully that guy is living a very happy life somewhere with a family and a wife and, and all that stuff, And you guys can do that too. You guys can make sure that you find a way to contribute. You can find a way to help out too, because there are always opportunities out there where you just might save somebody's life. You just might save somebody from making a horrible decision, from doing something. And we need more of that in the world. We need more humanity, connection, family, cohesion in human culture. People looking out for each other. friendship, values, and everything. So it teaches you a lot of lessons to be learned from that. So take everything that I said in this video to heart, guys. I hope it was a good lesson for you guys today. I hope it was a good story. I hope you guys gain a lot from it. Of course, as always, let me know what you guys think. Leave all your thoughts and opinions down below in the Great White Void. And I'll see you back for the next vlog very soon. Later.